Hey bookworms, time to do our weekly whimsy. So today I'm going to do the cave of the Morlocks, and we're going to do, or I'm going to use, you use whatever you feel like. I'm going to use my watercolor, my mini watercolor palette again, and then probably some ink, my ink pen. I'm going to show you how I'm going to finish up this. I'm going to extend the picture a little bit. So let me pull this up so you can see. I've already got my transfer done on there. I taped that on, and then I'm going to just use that to help me create a little more of this cave. Let's see. So this looks like we're like looking from one side of the cave into like another side of the cave. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a few more lines just to create the rest of the roof of that cave. And then we've got some rocks here, and so I'm just going to create a few more shapes to create the rest of this path. So I'm making like the tops of the rocks and then making those come down. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my ink pen. I'm going to grab one of my microns. I'm going to grab my thick one. And I'm going to get this on, here, let me move this out of my way for a second. I'm going to get this on a little better and then erase some of these lines. Oh, did I ruin this? I feel like I always do this. Where is my, got some rubbing alcohol. Let me see if I can revive it really quick. Don't know if this will work or not. I've never tried this, so let's see. Might have to grab a different ink pen. There we go. I think it is working. Maybe. Okay, let's see if I can get this to go. Yep, a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Yay. Okay. It's still not perfect, but I feel like it's flowing much better. Hopefully it gets going here. Yeah, it's definitely getting better. Awesome. So bad. I'm so rough on my microns. Okay. And then, so I'm just gonna make, it's a bunch of lines, right? So just get these on. And this area right in here is like looking up into the sky. Okay. And then got different levels, a little bit of vegetation right through there. And then the cool thing about this one is you don't have to be making really pretty lines. Just following the general right. Let's keep going here. So I've definitely got my picture here to help, and then you can see I printed this for you in like high contrast to help with being able to see what's happening, because if it was just a black and white drawing, I feel like it would be really hard to see what was going on here. I've got all these rocks down in here. I hope you guys are liking this book. I'm pretty much done with, I've got a tiny bit left of it, but this one's been fun. You can see I'm using really light pressure. And I'm not picking my pen up much. I'm just sort of making squiggly lines. All right. Got little rocks here and there. Now we've got some trees, little shrubs growing through here. Some grasses. All right, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to grab my eraser and I'm going to erase all the lines. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pull my paper off here. All right, so there we go. Get this back into the frame. All right, so now I am going to get the blue sky put back in there. I've still got my paper here so I can sort of see what's going on. I get some water flowing in my water pen here, and then I'm gonna create this up here. I definitely want like a light blue because I want you to see that that is the sky up in there. Okay, so with this you can see it's really dark through here and really dark over here, and then there's some light in this area. So that's what we're gonna try to do here. So, and once you want it to get darker as it gets deeper, right? So I'm going to grab my black. I'm going to start up in here. And I'm going to leave a little gap, some of these gaps around these lines here to create sort of like the ridge lines in the rock. So right in there, I'm going to try to take it just so it's really close. See that? And then thicken that up a little in there. And I just want some of those white spaces left. And that will create some of the natural looking highlights, like bouncing off the rocks in those areas. All right, so I want this corner really dark up in here, so I'm going to deepen that up. Same thing on this side. Add a little more pigment. All right, and then bigger gap right in there. All right, and now I'm going to add a little water and get more of like a wash so it starts to lighten up a little bit. We can definitely go back and add more ink, more paint to get areas deeper if I want. Right now, I just want to sort of get all of this like a lighter. All right, and then I'm going to bring this down so you can see. All right, and then I'm going to do, I think like this, like a grayish color that I'm going to use for this part back in here. So I'm looking at my picture still. It's almost like a brownish gray. Right here is where that color is going to start, and down here I want it a little darker. And as it gets closer to the opening, it should get a little lighter. So that's why I'm putting the ink down here first. I keep calling it ink. Watercolor down here. And then as we go up, it should get a little lighter. See that? Okay. And then I'm going to rinse my water, get some of this color out of my brush. And then I'm going to add some green to these areas right here. It's like vegetation growing on the edges there. I'm going to add a couple different shades of green to get a little depth. Maybe. Why is that not really? Okay. And then I'm going to add this deeper green down here to some of this vegetation. Okay, and then I'm going to pick a different color green. I'm going to put some of these grasses in. Okay, and clean my brush off. And then I'm going to grab my black again, and then get this really deep in here. Okay. I'm going to go right along some of these lines to create a little more shadow in the lighter areas. So just remember the light source is coming from up in there as you create this. So just try to imagine where that might be as far as like your shadows falling. So this is a lot of work on like considering where the light is. And don't get over worried about it or anything like that. It's okay. So that's how that's starting to come along. Okay. So then back here where we're standing and looking in, we're back sort of in like a cave too. So we want to get, this needs to be, especially the sides of the rocks here need to be really dark. The sides that we're looking at, because we are standing. And you can see I start closest to me to get the deepness there. And then as I move, my brush just slowly loses the paint and it gets a little less dark as we go. Okay. And then I want to add some of this grayish gray brown right here under the foliage. And I'm going to darken up the underneath parts of the green trees. And then I'm going to use this color as like the tops of my rocks. It's grayish, or yeah, grayish brown color, sort of what it is. You can see I'm not being really careful either. It sort of makes neat shadows if you're got some overlap going on. So go ahead and be free with it. All right. And then I'm going to pick a warmer brown for the ground here, for the dirt. And color some of those rocks I have there. So I'm going to get this on there. And then I'm going to go back to my grayish brown color, and I want this side to be a little darker, and then we want shade around, like shadow around the rocks that we have. Oops, wrong color. So down in here. Okay, and then I need to add some more colors and deepen up some of this area. All right, I like it. I'm gonna clean my brush off a little bit, touch up some of my trees, get a little more depth there. I really like that. All right, I'm gonna clean this brush off really good. I want to add a little more blue to the sky. And then I'm going to take a lighter gray and sort of blend out some of these areas up in here. I feel like it's a little stark. White gaps. Cool. All right, need a little more depth in here somewhere. All right, I like that. You could definitely add a little more, like if you wanted to add a little more ink work to this, just to redefine everything. Let's see. Oh my gosh, none of my pens are working. Still struggling with this micron. I hope I'm not. There's no way, right? That I'm out of this already? Alright. Yeah. I feel like that definitely adds a little bit. You could definitely put a little more detail back into this. Sort of lost some of it with the... I like the way it looks where it's like double drawn. Give me some of my tree detail back. I'm not gonna be picking up my pen. At least not too much anyway. I really like that. That looks a lot better. That's cool. All right. Let's see what you guys think after I get this. Okay, I like it. I'm gonna pull this up so you guys can see it. It's cool. All right, so we've got our Morlock cave. And then I'm gonna stick this, it's already dry. Wonderful thing about watercolor. Stick this in my book. And you can see I have already pre-cut out my Weekly Whimsies. I like to, if there's something more like this, I like to trim them to make it easier for me to like center them in the page. But I've already got these in there, so if you want to do that just to have less of a mess. And we've got our Weekly Whimsies going, so we've got a few more left. I've been working today on our winter one. I'm really excited for you guys to see our next book and the fun things we've got coming for that. But there we are. All right, you guys, have an awesome week. I hope you're having a wonderful fall. And I look forward to seeing your guys' Weekly Whimsies. Bye, guys.